Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into something that a lot of people might think they already know. We're going to be talking about the parable of the lost sheep. But we're going to try to uncover some new insights and look at it from a different perspective.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, we're going to be using an excerpt that focuses specifically on the passage from Luke chapter 15, verses 4 and 5.
Okay.
And this whole deep dive is kind of about exploring this idea that, even when people feel lost or distant from God, he is still actively seeking them out.
Right.
And trying to have that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's really interesting about this particular excerpt is it really focuses on the shepherd's joy when he finds that lost sheep.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding something that's lost. It's more about that restoration of the relationship and the celebration that comes with it.
Okay, yeah, so let's kind of dig into that a little bit. The excerpt really highlights how this shepherd actually leaves the 99 sheep behind to go find that one lost sheep.
Right.
Why is that one sheep so important? From like a human perspective, it just doesn't seem very efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the parable really challenges our human logic, right? It's not really about like practicality. It's more about showing how much God values each individual soul.
Yeah.
It kind of goes against the idea that we have to like earn God's love.
Right.
Or that some people are just, more deserving than others.
Yeah, that's always been something I've personally wrestled with, this idea that that God seeks me out even when I, mess up. Do our choices not matter then?
That's a question that people have been asking like for centuries.
Right.
It touches on this really complex relationship between God's sovereignty and human free will.
Right.
Some people believe that God already knows everything that's going to happen.
And that determines everything. But other people really emphasize that we have this capacity to choose, to make our own decisions.
Right.
So this parable doesn't really give us a definite answer, but I think it suggests that God's love operates on a level that's just beyond our comprehension.
Right. It's just a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
The excerpt also brings up this interesting point about how God doesn't wait for us to be perfect before trying to connect with us.
Exactly.
Have you ever felt like you need to kind of clean up your act, so to speak, before you can even approach God?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a very common human tendency, right? To feel like we need to be worthy. But this parable suggests that God's grace isn't conditional. It doesn't mean that he condones wrong actions.
Right.
But he meets us where we are.
Yeah.
In the midst of our struggles or imperfections. And he offers us guidance and a path towards, becoming whole. So the source then throws this kind of a challenging question at us. It asks, have you ever felt like God was distant?
Yeah.
And it kind of makes us consider that maybe he was pursuing us in ways that we just didn't recognize.
Right, exactly. I mean, think about the shepherd in the parable. He's tirelessly searching for that one sheep. And God's presence might not always be like super dramatic or obvious.
Right.
Sometimes it's more subtle, like a nudge in the right direction or, an unexpected opportunity, or maybe even just a sense of peace in the middle of chaos.
So how can we learn to recognize God's voice?
Yeah.
How do we differentiate that from all the noise in our lives?
Well, I think it's about becoming more attuned to his presence, remembering times when we really felt God working in our lives, even if it was subtle.
Right.
That can help us become more aware.
Yeah, and the source even encourages us to try to remember a specific time when we felt like God was working, even if we didn't really understand it at the time. Maybe it was like a difficult situation that, looking back, you see how much you grew from it.
Right.
Or a time when you had like a sudden moment of clarity and it shifted your whole perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are great examples. And while I'm not going to share a personal anecdote here, I really want to encourage our listeners to think about those moments in their own lives. Those times when you felt hope, when things seemed really bleak, or maybe you experienced unexpected support during a tough time.
Right.
Those can be those subtle ways that God was present, working behind the scenes.
So even when we feel lost and alone, God is actively seeking us out.
Exactly.
He's like that shepherd who never gives up searching for his sheep. Makes you think, though, if God is always pursuing us, what can we do to pursue him back?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What are some things we can do, maybe some practices or habits, to help us recognize his voice more clearly and actually respond to his call?
Yeah, those are some great questions to ponder.
Yeah. Just something to think about as you go about your week.
Definitely.
And join us next time for another deep dive into all the complexities of faith and life.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks everyone.